Well, welcome back to the podcast. It is the last episode of the year, and me and Dan today, sorry, I don't know why I'm in my home.
This is the important part of the podcast, though. I do look a bit like an elf.
1 second.
I think I've got to pop these on either side.
I've got probably the tightest Santa hat ever. My favourite episode was Dodge Woodall. Dodge Woodall was just such a character to have with us in the studio, and he's such a nice guy and business mind, and you learn so much from just talking to him.
I think our conversation with Simon was my favourite. The fact we got the opportunity to talk to that man, I won't go on it anymore because we just spoke on it, but it was fantastic. It was eye-opening to me. Our little PerformWell podcast wrap for the year. We won't have one coming out Christmas weekend because we're going to have a week off, to be totally honest with you, having like a Christmas shutdown. Anyway, guys,
have a good Christmas, have a good New Year's, obviously, and thank you so much for listening and watching.
Welcome back to the PerformWell podcast. This is the podcast for you if you're looking for performance and wellness optimization so that you can not only smash your career, but also have a better life, better relationships, and better health. We believe that performance and wellness are yin and yang and work together. So listen in as we dive into topics that are going to help you optimize your life for the better.
Well, welcome back to the podcast. It is the last episode of the year, and me and Dan today, sorry, I don't know why I'm in my home.
This is the important part of the podcast, though. I do look a bit like an elf. I feel like my ears in or ears out.
1 second.
I think I've got to pop these on either side. For audio listeners, we've just put Christmas hats on.
I've got probably the tightest Santa hat ever.
Yeah, I feel like my head's getting bigger every single year, so this one used to fit quite nicely. But here we are. So, yeah, Merry Christmas to all, and we appreciate you guys sticking with the PerformWell podcast for, a year and a half now we've been doing this. And we kind of wanted just to show you guys, a little bit of our wrapped and our journey for this last year, talking about some key topic areas that we've had, conversations we've had with such amazing people. And the standout thing, I think, is clearly we just need more OnlyFans models. I don't know.
Apparently so, man. Apparently so.
Because if you can see here, clearly our highest performing clips is by double the amount of what our first episode was because we had Anna on. But I do also say that if you haven't watched that episode, the conversation was great with Anna. It was actually a really good insider into the mental struggles of OnlyFans models too, with body dysmorphia, the complexity of how basically their bodies are then sold online by their own choice, and how they have to attract attention. So if you haven't listened to that conversation, it is a good conversation, and we'll obviously open up a lot of ears to it. But Nick, let's ask you a question here. It's more a conversational piece from us. What is your favourite episode from this year?
My favourite episode? I mean, every part of me would love to say someone like Simon Squibb, because obviously Simon Squibb's got huge amounts of followers. Like anyone that knows him on social media, millions of followers. And like the chance to talk to someone like that, it feels so like, it feels special. But I have to say, I think my favourite podcast this year was Dodge Woodall. And potentially, like, if we're talking about a second one that's very close to that, would be Phil Learney. And not because they necessarily have those millions of followers, they're pretty well respected in their spaces. But Dodge Woodall was just such a character to have with us in the studio. And he's such a nice guy and business mind, and you learn so much from just talking to him without actually having to like necessarily consume the content like it's a business talk.
Actually, the amazing thing was with Dodge, and we'll give you a little bit of background to this. Dodge asked us to come on our podcast. He saw potential in the podcast. He saw that we only live up the road from Dodge, and I think it was amazing that he reached out to us with how big of a platform he is. The owner of Bournemouth Sevens, one of the biggest festivals on the South Coast. He works with Simon, knows Simon personally. I agree with you. It was probably one of my most favourites. And I think the views never really show how amazing the conversation is with these people. We are a growing podcast, so we hope these conversations reach more people. At the end of the day, look, we're here to help everyone's performance and well-being, and trying to really start to invoke conversations that are important and not necessarily just sit here trying to get clickbait views that a lot of other pods do. We want to provide value.
Yeah, like Dodge Woodall's podcast as well. Like, although there's super entertaining, there's a lot in there that will make you laugh. Like, from the pet monkey that he had as a kid growing up, like there's a way he speaks that just makes you so engaged with listening to him. But genuinely, his experience as a business owner and the way he performs as an entrepreneur and looks after his health and sleep, etc. Like, this man knows so much.
He does.
Very,
He does.
very knowledgeable guy. You'll learn so much from listening to him. Like, that's probably one of my favorite ones in terms of educational content as well, because he actually gets across information that will help everyone.
Yeah. I will say as well, I'll go in with my favorite. And I hate to say it, I will be brutally honest. I think our conversation with Simon was my favorite. Like, the fact we got the opportunity to talk to that man, I won't go on it anymore because we just spoke on it, but it was fantastic. It was eye-opening to me. I was so nervous going into the podcast and having the conversation with him, because he's such a big name in the world, not just the industry, but the world. And he is making revolutionary change that inspires both of us daily to, perform at our best, give just high quality to everyone we try and provide for at the end of the day. And we hope that we can do the same next year. Obviously, we're trying to get more guests on at this point in time. To really get back to it. I'd love to do it in person again, like in-person podcasts.
And don't get me wrong, like, if we're talking about like guests that we want to see next year, I've got a few ideas in my head. But good, Dan, who would you like to talk to if you had a list of 5 people?
Who would I like to talk to if I had a list of 5 people? There is Dr. Ids, who did a book called Saturated Facts, which is breaking down loads of the industry's bullshit, essentially, in the least kind way. Dr. Ids is one of them. I'd actually love to have another conversation with Anna, not for views, but genuinely because I think there was more to that conversation than what we delved into. So like a round 2 in terms of conversation with her would be absolutely fantastic. I have said that I'd love to have a conversation. There's a couple of big hitters like James Smith. I'd love to have a conversation with James Smith. He's appeared on a lot of podcasts.
Yeah.
He'd be amazing to get on here and have a conversation with. There's a girl called Siobhan O'Hagan, for any of our women who listen to this podcast. Siobhan is someone that I met at a fitness event. She is the epitome of one of the nicest Irish women I've ever met. And she's got a really down to earth way of looking at things. And to be brutally honest with you, I'd love to have a conversation with someone like Ant Middleton. Like, genuinely.
That'd be cool.
That'd be cool. Amazing, to have a conversation with someone like him. Like, eye-opening stories into, what's gone on in their lives. And to be honest, we have the possibility to get these guests on. We really do.
We do.
Who would you go for? Who's your top 5 for next year?
Look, James Smith is a controversial figure in a lot of people's eyes, but he's also a big, figurehead for this industry, and I think he would be a sound guy to have on, especially considering that we both came from Bracknell. What was actually crazy, I think I mentioned this to you before to you, Dan, was that me and James Smith, both from Bracknell, similar age bracket, he's slightly older than me, we both travelled to Australia at the same time. We both went online at the same time. The only difference was he stayed out there and I came back home.
Mm-hmm.
And you could see it was so weird to know that like our paths were like aligned at one point and then they separated. And like there's something about that, regardless of what you think of someone, that you just can't help but be like enamored by the fact that you got similarities. Now, Alima would be my go-to for a bit of comedy, because this guy comes out with the funniest content ever, and like he's exposing secrets in the fitness, not secrets, sorry, he's exposing the fitness industry for all the bullshit that's going on. Like, for example, like someone filming themselves in a gym doing something pointlessly stupid, like just to prank you as a viewer, and he's just there like as this second B-roll segment. Look at him like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
like most people would react in real life. Most people would see this and go, what the hell are you doing? And honestly, I would love a Lima on the podcast. Now, in terms of, if we go down Ant Middleton route, I would say Bear Grylls, because
you've got association with Bear Grylls. If you've seen podcasts, Nick has mentioned Bear Grylls.
Bear Grylls would be the OG. Okay? And it's actually ironic because I tried logging into something today, which I won't tell you about, but needed a password, like a word from my childhood, memorable childhood hero. And I swear it was Grylls, Bear Grylls. That was what I thought it was going to be, because that's the thing that comes up to my mind when I think childhood hero. But it wasn't, so can't use that. And who else? If we're talking 2 more, I'll stay out of politics, because
good idea.
Not a good option, that.
We have had a politician on the podcast, Dan Fitzhenry, but he gave more of a well-being outlook on things rather than a political standpoint.
That was a really, to be fair, actually thinking about that was a really interesting podcast.
That was a good podcast. That was a very good podcast.
Arguably up there with the Simons and the Dodge.
Yep. No, I agree.
Yeah. Can't think off the top of my head. I don't want to limit it to.
No, definitely not. But one thing I did want to come on to is a conversation about obviously growth. And that's the reason I got up this first ever episode of myself and Nick. What we posted this 1 year ago. Yeah, a year ago. It was our highest viewed. Yeah. And, people were interested. We started on, this is where we say, we have come a long way. I know we're doing them virtually at the minute. We haven't got a studio. But we were just sat on Nick's sofa, 2 Rode mics clipped up, having a conversation just about kind of bits and pieces in the fitness industry, started a podcast, and, we're where we are now, which, we thank you guys.
Do you remember the comment on your TikTok saying, just another two guys doing a podcast?
And this is it literally was a TikTok comment. I mean, I'm saving it for when we hit 1 million on this, to be totally honest with you. And to be just 2 guys who started a podcast and then we get to this point in time. But we've done 72 podcast videos, over 100 clips from the videos that we posted on YouTube. Obviously there's a lot more content that we're looking to cover. We want you guys to let us know, and this is a little bit of interactivity with you guys, because you can comment on Spotify too. So please leave a comment on the podcast and let us know what you found the most interesting topic from this year that we spoke about. Because it will help us carry over topic material into the new year and obviously get the right guests on for people who want to listen to. We've done a lot. We've done an awful lot, and we've tried to hit a lot of different areas with you guys this year. And actually, our highest commented video, as a little bit of a review, was this: "Is your food killing you?" I do believe. Was it this one, or was it Diet Wars?
It might be the carnival one.
Apologies for interrupting the podcast. We know you're getting fully engrossed into this episode, and we really appreciate you stopping on the video on YouTube or on Spotify if you found us through one of the search pages. Make sure to leave a review and a subscription if you haven't already. But we just wanted to interject a point here that me and Nick have 15 years of coaching experience between us, and it's only getting better as we've got better guests on the podcast. The only way we can do that, though, is with the growth of our program that we've just released. We've got a 12-month PerformWell program, which has just dropped, and we'd love you guys to get involved in it. If you want to know more details, make sure to head to the description, as we've got our website in there, which can give you a full overlay of the program. We're looking to help career-driven professionals, entrepreneurs, small business owners, and anyone dominate their life by improving their lifestyle. Me and Nick like to claim ourselves as experts in this area, and if you want to check out some of our other transformations, I'm sure you do. We've got some amazing people who have performed so well off the back of this program. Have a cracking day, and we really appreciate your time. Let's get back to the podcast. The carnival one. Yeah, so if we go on the carnival one of the interesting things, we never really kind of share comments with people. Yeah, we have 4 comments on this, but...
this is us having a conversation with this guy, isn't it?
Yeah, so there was just a little bit in the comments talking about hyper-carnivorous, and you just jump into humans are hyper-carnivorous. We're not just carnivorous, we're hyper-carnivorous. And it's especially when you say humans are omnivorous. No, the fuck we're not. I mean, we clearly are. Because...
I didn't respond to this guy on the last comment he put, because at that point, it's a losing situation. This guy ain't gonna give any ground to you.
I think he ended up writing. Yeah, he ended right.
Yeah,
one of the longest comments I've ever seen. I just, yeah. I mean, yeah, that was one of the comments we had.
Look, nothing wrong with you guys posting comments that challenge our beliefs, because we don't know everything and not everyone knows everything, and that's fine. But we are going to call you out on your shit too if you call our style shit and you're wrong, okay?
Yeah.
So just take that into consideration.
I think there was one on here as well, just interesting while we're going through the comments. It wasn't this one. This one was just pretty... I'm interested this one didn't spike any conversation, actually, but...
Well, actually, we had that comment recently on one of our videos. So what's one of the most recent ones? Was it the Ronaldo one?
I don't think it was on the Ronaldo one.
Ship training in 2025, I think. It was definitely recent. So this is a valid comment. Dan's trying to find it. Oh, by the way, if you see a cut on my nose there, I got a dishwasher door smashed into my nose and cut it. Everyone thought I'd been in a boxing fight. And I was like, no.
No, far from a boxing fight. I feel like it must have been something like Diet Wars. I really do feel it was something like Diet Wars. No. I'm just curious which one this is.
Dan, it came through. No, it came through on the.
Got it. It's clean eating, isn't it? Clean eating. It's this one.
Oh, that wasn't the one I meant, but yeah, that's still a banger.
What?
What's up?
I don't know. I can't remember what that is.
Lift what? No, I'll tell you what it is, man. I'll tell you what it is. I'll find it for you.
I'm really curious which one this commented. But essentially, this comment was talking about if you're in a deficit, you only have a certain amount of calories to play with, and that small amount of calories, you have enough protein, first of all, then some healthy fats, because essential, then 5 portions of fruit and veg and minerals, and then enough whole grains and energy and fiber.
Okay.
And then I think he did like a little script.
Is this making you fat, that podcast?
Okay, let me get that one up very quickly. Is this making you fat?
It's a slightly older version, one of these kind. Where are we? There we go. Right, so this guy commented on us this morning, I think, or yesterday.
What's talking about the podcast presentation?
Yeah, I think the thumbnail of the podcast is good. However, in this video, it's missing imagery. Like when you're reading an article or explaining something, you could use images from Google to make the videos way better. Overall, good podcast, but not using any Google images makes the video less exciting. Now, for those listening, obviously, it doesn't matter. But for those watching on YouTube, this is kind of what we want to do in the new year. And like, I actually rate this comment. I like this because it can sound a little bit like criticism. But, we do recognise that we want to make the podcast more engaging for you guys. And we will be.
It's constructive as well. We appreciate any constructive feedback. This is why we're always asking you guys to comment and kind of let us know everything that's been going on the podcast. And as I say, there's just a high likelihood we get some really, really good guests on in the new year. We've done well with what we've got, to be totally honest. I think we've had some cracking guests on. We've tackled some really big topic areas. We'd love to then branch out into more people. I think we've got a little bit more credibility to do so now and kind of start to go out. One question I will ask is more a poll. What's your favourite kind of thumbnails?
Mate, we've had a few, haven't we? Go back to the beginning real quick. Can you go down to the bottom?
Yeah, we can. So these are our first ones.
For those from the start, obviously what was what we called ourselves to begin with. And then we've rebranded.
And then we rebranded to PerformWell because we want to just kind of actually have a bit more meaning behind it rather than...
We went through the phase where we were like putting our own face on everything, weren't we? And we might even bring that back.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, to be honest, I'd love to kind of dissect and deep dive into stuff. I'm really interested actually while we're here. Let's have a look at the most popular short. Let me guess.
What's
Here
that?
we go. I remember this one. So this was a short.
Wider than the moon.
Really? Can you hear that?
So yeah, Australia's 4,000.
So this is one of our most viral clips. And it was about Australia being bigger than the moon. I swear it got comments on it. I think this did like 20k across all platforms, talking about Australia being bigger than the moon, and it caused a lot of debate, which is obviously the reason we create the clips at the end of the day.
Yeah, but mate, this was like so when we had What podcast, we had this thing where we'd ask guests to bring a random fact, and we were running with it pretty much every episode, and everyone would go on Google and type in random facts, and they would pick the first thing that comes up, which is Australia is wider than the moon. And we had 4 podcast episodes where the guest would say the same thing, and we got to the point where we had to try and instruct, different niches of answers for random facts because it just got ridiculous.
The one that came second. Would you rather be trapped in a romantic comedy with your enemies or a horror movie with your friends?
Yeah, this is a good one.
Yeah,
I think Dan in this one said about being in a horror movie with your friends because he could be the thing that is the horror.
Yeah,
for
sure.
I worded that really dumb, but anyway.
No, I know exactly what you mean. But if anyone's wondering where they can watch all our podcasts, all the podcast episodes are available here. There should be 72. There's just a couple missing from that one, or 73. Yeah. No, by this time it'll be like 74 when it's 75. I don't know. We're in the 70s. It's somewhere along that lines. But yeah, as I say, we've got a lot of growth for the podcast coming in the next year. So let's have a little bit kind of I don't know. We've spoken about what our favourite guests are. We've spoken about what our favourite episode is. What would be one episode or one topic area you'd like to cover in the new year?
For myself. Okay, look, because we're a performance and wellness podcast, I've got this little part of me that wants to explore things such as the UAP, UFO phenomenon, which is wildly gaining traction in the world at the moment. Apart from that side of things, which I'm sure we could dive into one time, it would be good to talk more about performance in general. Like, there's nothing wrong with talking about wellness, sleep, lifestyle, stuff like that, but the performance element of operating at a higher level of being. And I mean, a little bit like obviously Chris Crone in our previous podcast we talked about, but the psychosomatic element of getting your mind in the right place so you can perform at a high level is the kind of stuff that I'm interested in talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Because we know that if you get the mind right, the body gets right too. Yeah. And I'm guessing, Dan, what are you thinking, man?
I'll be brutally honest. I want to do one for my ladies out there. I would love to take a deep dive into perimenopause and menopause. I've been learning so much about it this last year. I'd love to do a podcast so we get someone on who is either going through the menopause, is perimenopausal, get their viewpoints on it. I mean, I'd love to have a conversation with the menopause doctor. Again, it would be very female focused, but blokes never forget that if you know how your lady works, it makes your life a lot easier. You know, you can understand what's going on and not just think, oh, she's being a bitch today. You can actually think, oh, you know, she's going for perimenopause. She's probably having a tough time. And kind of talking about how training and exercise can come into it. Because I'll be brutally honest, I think people are so fearful about training through the perimenopause that I think it's important that we can have a conversation about it to open people's eyes to the possibility and ability that they do have. Aside from that, it's always going to be sciatica for me. Sciatica and anything herniated disc related is really at my heart. I train a couple of people at the minute, and I train one guy who's going through the same journey I went through, and I think it is a very emotional topic area, and I think people just feel like they don't have hope. And I would just love to give people a bit of hope with things, you know, a bit of kind of feeling that you can do it. And coming back to referring to podcasts is probably an easy way of doing it, because I do that. I save loads of episodes that I call eye-opening episodes, and I want to just produce some like that are going to make you go, oh, you know what? That's a cracking episode. I'm going to remember that one. Yeah. I think that's pretty much everything from this podcast, guys. That's our little PerformWell podcast wrap for the year. We won't have one coming out Christmas weekend, because we're going to have a week off, to be totally honest with you, having like a Christmas shutdown. But then we'll be formulating ideas to bring you some episodes in the new year. We're hoping as well we see some lovely new faces on the channel, so make sure to give us a wave, give us a hello. Let us know where you found our podcast from, because we're going to keep trying to churn out as much as we can. And we have a little bit of assistance coming into the new year, which we're really happy to announce. But obviously,
it's going to be great.
The new year, which is going to be really helpful for us to help grow the podcast. Because to be brutally honest with you, we just, as business owners of two businesses and a podcast, it's tough work. It's really tough work to keep on top of everything. So we've looked at outsource and hire.
Nothing else to say then.
Yeah. Except, anyway, guys,
have a good Christmas, have a good New Year's, obviously, and thank you so much for listening and watching.
We appreciate you guys, and I'll catch you guys later.